What if the earliest humans, living 600,000 years ago, could sense danger before it became real? Not through sight or sound, but through a spiritual shift in the world around them. What if survival itself depended on recognizing a hidden signal that whispered through the wind, the fire, and the patterns of the night? Picture a primitive tribe standing at the edge of an unforgiving landscape, surrounded by predators, storms, hunger, and uncertainty, yet guided by an unexplainable intuition that something was wrong long before chaos arrived. This ancient spiritual perception was not mystical fantasy for them, but a survival instinct woven into every breath and every decision. It was the moment when the fire crackled differently, when the animals grew silent, when the air felt heavier and the tribe understood, without a single word, that they were spiritually exposed. They sensed a break in the invisible thread that held their unity, their focus, their emotional strength. In that raw world, a subtle omen meant everything, because losing spiritual alignment meant losing the ability to face the cold, the fear, and the unknown. To understand this hidden message is to understand the psychology of early humanity, where the mind and spirit were inseparable tools for survival. Before rituals, before symbols, before spoken language, intuition was the only guide strong enough to warn them of what they could not see. And maybe this resonates with you too. Have you ever felt a sudden inner tension, a quiet discomfort that arrives without explanation? A feeling that something around you has shifted, even though nothing visible has changed. You might not realize it, but moments like this echo the same ancient instinct that once kept entire tribes alive. If this kind of inner warning has ever brushed against your own life, share your experience in the comments, and leave a like if this exploration is helping you understand these ancient patterns in a deeper way. And while you are here, check if you are already subscribed to the channel, because what comes next continues unfolding the hidden forces that shaped human spiritual survival, carrying us into the next layer of this ancient journey, where the meaning of these signals becomes even more vivid and compelling. In the moments after the tribe sensed that subtle spiritual break, something inside them sharpened. Their awareness expanded, not as fear alone, but as a deep instinct urging them to read the world more carefully. To us, the environment is a place we observe. To them, it was a living force that responded, shifted, warned, and guided. Every sound, every shadow, every pause in the rhythm of the landscape held meaning. When the hidden omen appeared, the tribe knew they needed to look beyond the obvious, because danger in their world rarely arrived with clear footsteps. It approached through patterns, sensations, and energies they learned to interpret long before logic existed. A slight change in the wind direction, a sudden quiet in the trees, or the unusual movement of animals carried messages that were as vital as any tool or weapon. Interpreting these invisible signs required a form of attention that modern humans rarely access. Their minds were not cluttered with noise, distraction, or constant reasoning. Instead, they operated through a fusion of instinct, emotion, and perception that created a heightened spiritual sensitivity. They watched the fire as if it spoke, because in their understanding, it did. They followed the behavior of the sky not just as weather but as guidance. Their awareness was not limited to survival. It was spiritual vigilance, a way of reading the unseen forces that shaped reality. When the omen surfaced, they did not panic. They gathered, observed, and tried to interpret what the world was trying to say. This ability did not come from rituals or rules, because rituals had not yet taken shape. It came from living so close to the edge of existence that the mind evolved to sense what the eyes could not confirm. Their spiritual psychology was built from silence, from nights where fear and curiosity blended into one, from generations who survived only by trusting those subtle impressions. The tribe understood that the message was rarely literal. It was a shift in balance, a signal that something in their harmony with the environment had fractured. They relied on this invisible communication because they had no choice. Every wrong interpretation carried the risk of separation, loss, or death, and so they cultivated an inner language that connected them to the unseen realm. As the air grew tense and the omen lingered, their focus deepened. The tribe observed not only the world but each other, sensing emotional currents just as carefully as natural ones. A shared unease meant the message was real. A sudden moment of stillness confirmed that the spiritual thread binding them together had loosened, and as they searched for understanding, they stepped into a state of awareness that was neither fear nor knowledge, but something ancient and instinctive, setting the stage for the next revelation that would determine how they realigned themselves with the forces that governed their survival. Fear for early humans was not merely an emotion. It was a doorway into a deeper form of perception that shaped their spiritual identity. When the tribe sensed that the hidden omen was still present, fear did not freeze them. Instead, it opened their awareness to layers of reality that modern minds rarely touch. In their world, fear sharpened the senses until every detail became meaningful, and this heightened state allowed intuition to rise above confusion. Intuition was not a random feeling, it was the tribe's most reliable guide, shaped by generations who had survived precisely because they learned to trust what could not be seen. Within this space where fear met intuition, spirituality emerged as a natural extension of survival, a silent force binding their minds to the environment. Fear created vulnerability, but it also created clarity. When the tribe felt the atmosphere tightening, their breath slowing, their instincts pulsing, they understood that this inner tension was not just emotional, but spiritual. It signaled that something in the balance of the world had shifted, and they must realign themselves before the rupture grew stronger. Their hearts beat faster not because of panic, but because they sensed the invisible weight of the unknown pressing against them. In this tension, an intuitive understanding guided their choices. They did not ask why they felt this way. They did not try to rationalize the causes. They simply accepted that fear was the mind's way of revealing truths that the senses could not yet confirm. This connection between fear and intuition formed the foundation of primitive spirituality. Spirituality for them was not a system of beliefs, symbols, or rituals. It was the recognition that reality had layers, that the visible world was only one part of existence, and that their survival depended on their ability to move through these layers instinctively. When fear rose, it pushed them toward a deeper awareness, reminding them that their inner world and the outer world were intertwined. It taught them that emotional shifts were messages, not weaknesses. Their psychological landscape was shaped by moments in which fear transformed into insight, giving them the ability to predict, adapt, and interpret meaning where none was spoken. As the tribe gathered in silence, their shared fear created a unified field of intuition. It connected their minds, allowing them to sense not only their own emotions, but the emotions of others. This merging of perception strengthened their bond and allowed them to face uncertainty together. Fear, instead of isolating them, became a collective signal that something greater than the individual was unfolding. In that unity, a primitive spirituality took shape, built on instinctive trust and unspoken understanding. The tribe did not see fear as an enemy. They saw it as an ancient guide, pulling them toward truths hidden beneath the surface of their existence. And as they leaned into this intuitive clarity, they stepped closer to uncovering the deeper symbol that revealed why the omen had appeared and what it demanded from them next, allowing the story to move forward with even greater intensity. As the tribe listened to the silent tension pulsing through the night, a pattern began to reveal itself, something that only those who had lived close to the edge of existence could recognize. This hidden symbol was not carved in stone or marked on the ground. It was something far more subtle, something that the environment expressed through a shift in harmony. The earliest humans sensed that when harmony fractured, when the natural rhythm faltered even slightly, the symbol appeared. It could manifest in the way the fire bent its flames against the wind, or in how shadows stretched too long, or even in the uneasy behavior of animals that usually guided them through the plains. This symbol was not a thing to see. It was a thing to feel, a message encoded in the fabric of their reality. Tribes that could interpret this sign with clarity were the ones that endured storms, scarcity, and predatory threats. They understood that the world spoke in whispers, and ignoring those whispers meant slipping into chaos. When a tribe missed the symbol, when they dismissed the quiet shift, they drifted out of alignment with the forces around them. This misalignment weakened them, broke their unity, and fed despair. Survival required more than tools and fire. It required the ability to read this spiritual marker that flashed only when the tribe's inner balance began to crumble. The symbol served as a threshold, reminding them that danger was not always external. Sometimes it emerged from within in the form of distrust, disconnection, or fading intuition. Those destined to survive approached the symbol not with panic, but with reverence. They knew that its appearance meant they needed to strengthen their bond, quiet their minds, and listen more carefully to everything inside and around them. They stood in stillness, observing how each member reacted to the subtle shift. A tribe that remained spiritually aligned became resilient, adaptable, unified. But a tribe that ignored the sign fractured from within long before any external threat arrived. This spiritual awareness became a decisive factor, separating those who would vanish from those who would carry human existence forward. As the omen lingered and the symbol pulsed in ways only they could sense, the tribe drew closer, searching for the meaning behind that invisible mark. Their instincts told them that the next steps would determine not just their physical survival, but the preservation of something deeper, something that would echo through generations long before language found the words to describe it. If this symbol reminds you of moments in your own life when subtle signs demanded your attention, feel free to share your perspective in the comments, because these ancient experiences still resonate in ways we rarely acknowledge. The tribe gathered closer around the flickering fire, sensing that the hidden symbol they felt was not merely a warning for the present moment, but a reminder of something older, something carried forward from the ancestors who had faced similar tensions long before them. This transmission did not happen through teachings or verbal guidance, because language had not yet taken shape. Instead, spiritual knowledge moved quietly from generation to generation through behavior, instinct, and shared emotional patterns. Children learned by observing how elders reacted to the shifts in the environment, how they paused, how they listened, how they responded when the invisible balance changed. These subtle imitations formed the foundation of their inner world, shaping an intuitive map of how to survive not only physically, but spiritually. This continuity of perception was essential for the tribe's survival. When an omen appeared, they reacted almost as one, not because they discussed the meaning, but because each member carried echoes of their ancestors' reactions deep within their instincts. The body remembered even when the mind could not explain. The way an elder positioned their body, when sensing danger, the focused stillness they adopted when confronting the unknown, became patterns that repeated across generations until they formed an unspoken tradition. Their spirituality was not ceremonial. It was inherited awareness, a living memory encoded in the ways they breathed, watched, touched the ground, and aligned themselves with the world. Even in moments of uncertainty, the tribe felt guided by something larger than themselves. This presence was not understood as a deity or defined force, but as a continuity that linked their survival to the experiences of those who came before. It was as though their ancestors walked with them in every decision, shaping instincts that warned, protected, and directed them when rational thought offered no answers. The ability to sense when harmony fractured did not arise suddenly. It was the cumulative result of countless lifetimes spent adapting to the invisible forces surrounding them. Each generation refined this sensitivity, passing it forward in small gestures and intuitive responses that carried the weight of ancient wisdom. As the tribe confronted the symbol's presence, they drew upon this inherited knowledge without even realizing it. Their bodies responded in ways that aligned them with the same instinctive actions taken millennia earlier. Their minds quieted, their senses expanded, and their attention sharpened. They understood instinctively that ignoring the message would not only put them at risk, but would break the thread connecting them to the lineage that had carried their existence this far. In that silent transmission of awareness, the tribe found a foundation strong enough to face whatever the unfolding night might bring next, allowing the deeper layers of their spiritual resilience to emerge through the darkness surrounding them. As the tribe absorbed the silent knowledge that had been carried through countless generations, something within them began to shift from simple survival to a deeper form of trust. This trust was not placed in the physical world alone, but in an unseen connection they felt between themselves, the land, and the forces that shaped their existence. In moments when danger pressed close and the hidden symbol signaled that their spiritual alignment had weakened, the tribe relied on a kind of instinctive faith that rose from the same foundation as hunger, fear, and intuition. This faith did not need stories or explanations. It emerged from the understanding that life at the edge of extinction required surrendering to something larger than the immediate moment. Instinctive faith became their greatest shield because it anchored the mind when fear threatened to scatter their thoughts. When storms ravaged the plains or predators circled in silence, the tribe did not panic blindly. Instead, they leaned into this inner strength, allowing it to guide their reactions. This trust helped them remain grounded when uncertainty grew heavy, giving them the ability to act with coherence rather than chaos. Their breathing slowed, their senses sharpened, and their decisions became more precise. Faith, for them, was not hope for a miracle. It was a disciplined state of awareness that kept them aligned with the invisible balance they depended upon. In moments when the hidden omen appeared, this instinctive faith helped the tribe interpret the message rather than collapse under its weight. They understood that the symbol did not appear to frighten them, but to remind them that their connection with the world was fragile and had to be renewed. This renewal demanded inner focus, emotional unity, and a readiness to adjust. Primitive faith acted as a stabilizing force, turning fear into insight, confusion into attention, and vulnerability into collective strength. Through this process, they navigated dangers without losing themselves to despair. This inner alignment shaped the tribe's resilience in ways that physical strength alone could never achieve. While tools, fire, and strategy protected their bodies, it was faith that protected their minds from fracturing under the pressure of a world that constantly threatened to devour them. This allowed them to confront the unknown with a grounded presence that preserved their unity. The tribe understood instinctively that when they aligned their inner world with the outer world, they moved with the natural forces instead of against them. And in that harmony, they found a form of protection that no predator or storm could easily break. As the night deepened and the omen continued to hum quietly through the tension in the air, the tribe felt this instinctive faith rising within them once again, guiding their steps and preparing them for the next layer of meaning that would soon unfold, revealing a message even more enigmatic and essential than any they had felt before. As the tribe stood beneath the vast darkness of the ancient night, the hidden omen that had stirred their awareness began to take shape within their collective intuition. It was never a clear instruction, never a literal sign pointing toward an action or direction. Instead, it manifested as a deep, almost gravitational pull inside their consciousness. This enigmatic message emerged when survival reached its most fragile point, carrying a weight that pressed quietly on their instincts and urged them to choose carefully. In a world where a single wrong decision could end their lineage, the tribe depended on this inner signal to guide them toward safety when knowledge failed and danger closed in from every side. This message surfaced through a blend of emotional resonance and subtle shifts in perception. When the tribe gathered in circles of silence, listening to the pulse of the land, they began to feel a unified clarity forming among them. It was not spoken, not debated, but sensed collectively in the stillness. Sometimes it urged them to move their camp before dawn, even if nothing visible threatened them. Other times it directed them to stay in place, resisting the urge to flee from fear alone. This mysterious communication acted as a compass, grounded in instincts shaped by countless generations, helping them navigate situations where logic offered no solid ground. What made this message so vital was its ability to cut through the tribe's fear and reveal a deeper truth hidden beneath it. Survival demanded more than reacting to immediate danger. It required understanding when to trust the unseen pull that arose from within. The tribe learned over time that the message tended to appear at the edge of collapse, when their sense of spiritual alignment hung in the balance. It was during these moments that the tribe faced the greatest tests, not just of strength, but of coherence, intuition, and unity. The message pointed them toward the choice that preserved their harmony with the world, even when it contradicted the impulse of the moment. As they embraced this inner guidance, their decisions began to reflect a higher sensitivity to the environment and to one another. The message worked like a thread, weaving their emotions into a single, cohesive awareness. It helped them avoid unnecessary risks, choose safer paths, and maintain internal balance during times of scarcity or threat. It also kept them connected to the spiritual forces they felt moving through their reality, forces that shaped storms, migrations, and the behavior of predators long before humans could understand such patterns. This enigmatic signal became the difference between tribes that wandered blindly and those that walked with a quiet confidence instilled by ancient instincts. As the night pressed in around them, the tribe felt that familiar pull rising once again, urging them to prepare for a shift that was approaching. If you have ever sensed a silent message guiding your choices at a pivotal moment in your life, share your thoughts in the comments, because these ancient patterns still leave their imprint on us in ways we rarely recognize. The tribe felt the enigmatic pull lingering in the air, a soft pressure that touched their instincts long before any external sign confirmed its meaning. This heightened sensitivity was one of their greatest adaptations, a silent evolution shaped not by physical strength, but by the ability to perceive what others could not. In a world where storms rose without warning and predators moved like shadows across the plains, survival hinged on more than muscle or reflex. It required the capacity to sense disturbances in the unseen layers of reality. Spiritual sensitivity became the tribe's most refined instrument, one that allowed them to detect danger, opportunity, and imbalance before they manifested fully in the physical world. This sensitivity did not appear suddenly. It emerged through generations of living in an environment where silence spoke louder than sound and where the smallest shift carried monumental importance. The tribe learned to quiet the noise inside themselves, attuning their awareness to the faint vibrations running through the land. They understood that the world sent signals long before events unfolded, and those who learned to read them gained an advantage that could determine life or death. Their senses extended beyond the visible, forming a perception that intertwined emotion, intuition, and the subtle language of the environment. When the air felt too still, when the rhythm of the night changed, or when the fire's behavior grew strange, the tribe recognized that something was attempting to communicate with them. Their sensitivity allowed them to anticipate events, whether they involved migrating herds, shifts in weather patterns, or the creeping presence of predators. This intuitive understanding formed a symbiotic relationship with the environment. They did not dominate the land. They aligned with it, treating every sensation as part of a conversation with forces larger than themselves. This harmony was essential, not only for their physical safety, but for maintaining the spiritual equilibrium that sustained their unity. Spiritual sensitivity also shaped their relationships with one another. Each member of the tribe carried a unique perception of the world, but together their sensitivities created a collective intuition stronger than any individual insight. They felt subtle emotional shifts within the group, recognizing fear, tension, and imbalance with remarkable precision. This awareness helped them support each other, strengthen cohesion, and prevent internal fractures that could leave them vulnerable to external threats. Their unity was not accidental. It was built on this shared sensitivity that kept them connected on a level deeper than words could reach. As the night stretched on and the enigmatic pull remained steady, the tribe leaned into this sensitivity with renewed focus. It guided their breathing, their posture, the direction of their gaze, and even the rhythm of their steps. They sensed that something significant was approaching, something that required the full strength of their inner awareness. And in that heightened state, their spirits prepared to confront the deeper layers of meaning that were waiting just beyond their understanding, shaping the next movement in their ancient journey. As the tribe sensed the approaching shift with growing clarity, they instinctively turned to the behaviors that had sustained their ancestors across countless cycles of fear and uncertainty. These behaviors were the earliest forms of ritual, not structured ceremonies or symbolic acts, but instinctive practices born from the raw necessity of survival. Each movement, each breath, each posture was shaped by generations who discovered that certain actions grounded the mind, steadied the spirit, and restored the inner balance the tribe needed to face the relentless unpredictability of their world. These rituals existed long, before language could describe intention, forming a silent architecture of courage woven through the tribe's daily existence. Often these rituals emerged from moments when fear threatened to fracture unity. The tribe learned that rhythmic motion calmed the body, so they swayed gently in synchrony when danger loomed. They learned that touching the earth grounded their thoughts, so they pressed their hands to the soil when uncertainty grew heavy. They discovered that gathering close in circles amplified their collective awareness, allowing them to pool their intuition into a stronger, more coherent force. These actions were not superstitions, but ancient psychological tools, crafted by trial, error, and instinct, each one reinforcing their connection to the environment and to one another. The fire itself became a focal point for these rituals. Its shifting patterns mirrored the unpredictable nature of existence, yet its warmth symbolized stability. By observing the fire's behavior, the tribe entered a meditative state that aligned their breath with the flickering flames. Their attention sharpened, their fears softened, and their senses expanded. Even in silence, the fire taught them how to hold their ground when the surrounding world grew hostile. Their rituals, though simple, created a bridge between their inner landscape and the vast forces shaping their external reality. These primal practices also served to preserve emotional resilience. When the tribe felt the hidden omen press against their awareness, they did not scatter in panic. Instead, they entered these familiar patterns, drawing strength from the inherited wisdom embedded within them. Their rituals reminded them that survival depended not only on physical response, but on maintaining spiritual steadiness. Through these instinctive acts, they protected themselves from the internal collapse that often preceded external danger. Rituals transformed fear into courage, confusion into focus, and vulnerability into unity. As the night deepened and the tension hummed through the air, the tribe continued performing these silent movements, grounding themselves in the collective strength passed down through countless lifetimes. Their breath, their posture, their shared stillness created a spiritual shield that allowed them to stand at the edge of existence without losing their sense of direction. And as the ritual energy settled into their bodies, the tribe sensed that the final layer of the hidden message was waiting to emerge, carrying them toward a revelation that would shape not only their immediate survival, but the legacy that would echo far beyond their time. As the final echoes of the tribe's ritual movements faded into the darkness, a quiet clarity settled over them, as though the unseen forces surrounding their world had finally shifted into alignment. The hidden omen that had stirred their awareness since the beginning of the night no longer felt like a threat. Instead, it felt like a reminder, a call to reconnect with the ancient thread that bound their existence to everything that had come before. In that stillness, the tribe sensed the presence of generations whose instincts, fears, and silent discoveries had shaped the very foundations of their survival. This legacy was not carried in stories or markings, but in the deep, instinctive responses etched into their bodies and minds over hundreds of thousands of years. This inheritance guided the tribe toward a way of understanding the world that transcended the limits of their physical senses. They learned to interpret the land not as a mere environment, but as a living presence that communicated through subtle shifts and rhythms. Their ancestors had discovered that the world offered protection or warning depending on how closely one listened, and this wisdom flowed through the tribe as naturally as breath. The legacy took form in the way they watched the horizon, in the way they responded to fear, and in the way they gathered in unity when the balance of their world felt fragile. It was a silent archive of spiritual truths that shaped their resilience long before language could capture such ideas. What made this legacy so powerful was its simplicity. It did not rely on symbols or doctrines, but on the raw human ability to sense, feel, and adapt. Over time, these instincts became the foundation of early spirituality, influencing how humans connected with nature, with one another, and with the invisible layers shaping their reality. This inheritance would continue to evolve, guiding new tribes, new generations, and eventually entire cultures that carried faint echoes of these ancient perceptions. Even as humanity developed rituals, myths, and structured beliefs, the core of this spiritual sensitivity remained, rooted in the experiences of the earliest beings who walked the edge of existence. As the tribe stood in the quiet aftermath of the night's tension, they felt the weight of this inheritance pressing softly against their awareness. It was not a revelation, but a recognition, a realization that they were part of something much older and larger than themselves. The hidden omen, the intuitive pull, the rituals, the unity, all of it formed a thread that connected the past to the future. And as they prepared to move forward, they carried this legacy within them, shaping the next steps of humanity's spiritual journey in ways they would never fully understand. If you reached this point and felt the depth of this ancient connection, consider leaving a comment saying something like, "This message was meant for me, so I know you walked through this entire journey with me." And if this exploration brought you value, feel free to subscribe to the channel and leave a like to support this kind of content. There is another video waiting right beside this one that expands even further on these hidden layers of human origin, so if you feel called to continue, just follow the next path and keep walking with me.